Medical research is the engine that drives all progress in healthcare. It's a systematic and careful process of asking questions and searching for answers about health and disease. Think of it as detective work on a microscopic and global scale. Scientists and doctors look for clues to understand what makes us sick, what keeps us healthy, and what treatments can make us better. This isn't a random process, it's a structured investigation. The goal is to build a reliable body of knowledge that can be used to improve the lives of people everywhere. Every pill you take, every vaccine you receive, and every medical procedure a surgeon performs is a direct result of this dedicated work. The importance of this field really cannot be overstated. Without medical research, we would still be living in a world where common infections were a death sentence and life expectancy was tragically short. It's the reason we have antibiotics to fight bacteria, vaccines to prevent devastating viral illnesses like polio and measles, and advanced surgical techniques that can repair the human heart. Research provides the evidence needed to make sound medical decisions. It separates treatments that work from those that are ineffective or even harmful. It is our primary weapon against both ancient diseases and new health threats that emerge, ensuring we are always moving forward. Imagine a world without this constant quest for knowledge. Doctors would have to rely on guesswork and tradition rather than proven facts. The development of new medicines would grind to a halt, leaving millions to suffer from conditions that we now consider manageable, such as diabetes or high blood pressure. Medical research is fundamentally about hope. It is the promise that we can find cures for cancer, develop better treatments for Alzheimer's disease, and create a healthier future for our children and grandchildren. This pursuit of answers is a deeply human endeavor, fueled by curiosity, compassion, and a relentless desire to alleviate suffering and improve the human condition. This process is a continuous cycle of discovery and application. A breakthrough in a laboratory can lead to a new clinical trial, which in turn can lead to a new standard of care that saves lives in hospitals around the world. Dr. Tshetiz Dahal and countless researchers like him dedicate their careers to this noble cause. They work tirelessly, often behind the scenes, to piece together the complex puzzle of human biology. Their work builds upon the discoveries of those who came before them and lays the groundwork for the innovators of tomorrow. It's a collaborative, multi-generational effort to push the boundaries of what is possible in medicine. Medical research can be broadly categorized into three main types, each playing a unique and vital role. The first is basic research, often called laboratory or fundamental research. This is the starting point for most major medical breakthroughs. Scientists in this field explore the fundamental principles of biology, chemistry, and genetics. They might study how cells communicate, how a particular virus replicates, or how a specific gene functions. This type of research doesn't always have an immediate practical application, but it builds the essential foundation of knowledge upon which all other medical advancements are built. It's about understanding the how and why at the most granular level. The second pillar is clinical research, which involves studies with human participants. This is where the discoveries from basic research are translated into potential treatments for people. Clinical research aims to determine the safety and effectiveness of new medications, medical devices, or therapeutic approaches. It is conducted through carefully designed studies known as clinical trials, which often have multiple phases to test for safety, dosage, and efficacy against existing treatments. This is the critical bridge between the laboratory and the patient's bedside, ensuring that any new intervention is both safe and beneficial before it becomes widely available to the public. The third major type is epidemiological research. This branch of science studies the patterns, causes, and effects of health and disease conditions in defined populations. Epidemiologists are like disease detectives for entire communities. They investigate outbreaks, identify risk factors for chronic illnesses like heart disease or cancer, and evaluate the effectiveness of public health interventions. By looking at large groups of people, they can uncover links that might not be visible at the individual level. For example, epidemiological studies were crucial in identifying the connection between smoking and lung cancer, leading to massive public health campaigns that have saved millions of lives. These three types of research are not isolated. they are deeply interconnected and work together in a powerful synergy. A discovery from a basic research lab about a cellular pathway might inspire a new drug, which is then tested in clinical trials. The results of those trials, combined with epidemiological data on how the disease affects the population, can then inform public health policies and clinical guidelines for doctors. This integrated approach ensures that our medical knowledge is comprehensive, moving from the microscopic details of a cell all the way to the health and well-being of entire nations. It's a continuous loop of discovery, testing, and real-world application. To answer their complex questions, researchers employ a variety of established methods. One of the most powerful is the experimental method. This is most commonly seen in laboratory settings and in clinical trials. In an experiment, researchers actively intervene by changing a variable to see what effect it has. For instance, in a clinical trial for a new drug, one group of patients might receive the new medication while a control group receives a placebo or the standard treatment. By comparing the outcomes between the groups, researchers can determine if the new drug is effective. This method is considered the gold standard for establishing a cause and effect relationship. Another essential approach is the observational method. Unlike experiments, observational studies do not involve any intervention from the researchers. Instead, scientists simply observe subjects and measure variables of interest. They might follow a group of people over many years to see who develops a certain disease, looking for common factors among those who do. For example, researchers might observe the dietary habits of a large population and track the incidence of heart disease. This method is incredibly valuable for identifying potential risk factors and correlations in real-world settings, where conducting an experiment would be impractical or unethical. A third common tool in the researcher's toolkit is the survey method. Surveys involve collecting data from a sample of people through a series of questions, either in written questionnaires, interviews, or online forms. This method is excellent for gathering information about attitudes, beliefs, behaviors, and self-reported health status from a large number of people quickly and efficiently. For example, public health officials might use surveys to understand vaccination attitudes within a community, or to assess the prevalence of certain health-related behaviors like exercise or smoking. The data gathered can help guide public health campaigns and policy decisions. Choosing the right method depends entirely on the question the researcher is trying to answer. Each method has its own strengths and limitations. Experimental studies provide strong evidence of causation, but can be expensive and may not always reflect real-world conditions. Observational studies are excellent for identifying associations and studying large populations over time, but can be susceptible to confounding factors. Surveys are great for gathering broad data, but rely on the honesty and accuracy of self-reported information. Often, researchers will use a combination of these methods to build a more complete and robust picture, ensuring their conclusions are as reliable as possible. In the world of medical research, particularly in observational studies, the concept of a cohort is incredibly important. A cohort is simply a group of people who share a common characteristic and are followed over a period of time. This shared characteristic could be anything: being born in the same year, living in the same town, or having a specific medical condition. For example, the famous Framingham Heart Study, which began in 1948, enrolled thousands of residents from Framingham, Massachusetts, as its cohort. By tracking this group for decades, researchers have been able to identify major risk factors for cardiovascular disease, such as high blood pressure and high cholesterol. Working with cohorts allows researchers to watch how health and disease unfold naturally over long periods. By regularly collecting data from the same group of individuals, through checkups, blood tests, and questionnaires, scientists can connect exposures or behaviors early in life to health outcomes that appear much later. This long-term perspective is something that short-term experiments just cannot provide. It helps answer critical questions like, how does childhood diet affect the risk of developing diabetes as an adult? Or, what are the long-term effects of a particular environmental exposure? Cohort studies are a patient, powerful tool for understanding the origins of chronic disease. Modern medical research is rarely a solo endeavor. it is a profoundly collaborative effort. Scientists like Dr. Tshetiz Dahal don't work in isolation. They are part of vast networks that span institutions, countries, and even continents. Researchers share their findings through peer-reviewed publications and at scientific conferences. This open communication allows others to build upon their work, verify their findings, and avoid repeating the same mistakes. When tackling complex global health challenges, such as a pandemic or the fight against cancer, this collaboration becomes even more critical. Teams of experts from different fields, genetics, immunology, public health, must work together. This collaborative spirit extends to the cohorts themselves. Often, multiple research groups will study the same cohort to answer different questions, maximizing the value of the data collected. Furthermore, researchers often combine data from many different cohorts in what is called a meta-analysis. By pooling these results, they can create a much larger and more diverse sample size, which increases the statistical power and confidence in their findings. This teamwork, from the individual patient participating in a study to the international consortium of scientists analyzing the data, is the true secret behind the life-saving breakthroughs that define modern medicine. It proves that we are always stronger and smarter together.